Do you know what I was called in for today, old man? My director, Anderson, promptly called me after the lunch break. I immediately went to the newly transitioned CEO's office. "I'm sorry, did I make a mistake?" I inquired. "In this company, there's no job suitable for old-timers like you," Anderson stated. "So you don't have to come in from tomorrow." It took me a while to realize that I had been let go. I had worked for this corporation for 35 years, starting in my 20s. All of a sudden, I had no job. Anderson would frequently comment on how slowly I worked and how unhurried I was. I always made an effort to work carefully and with consideration for the company's relationships. Was that the end for me? I became aware of the unfairness and decided I had to get a new work as soon as possible. I hadn't even given the thought of taking revenge on Anderson at that point. Ronald is my name. I'm 50-something years old and a designer. I lost my wife only 3 years ago, and I've been living alone ever since. I immersed myself more deeply than ever in my work to drown my loneliness. It may seem unusual in this digital age, but I design with paint and paper. Both our clients and the prior CEO thought highly of my job. But it didn't appear like Anderson was a big fan. When the CEO wasn't present, he would frequently disparage me. A newer CEO takes over after the untimely death of the prior one. He was eager to phase out the previous technologies and introduce new ones. Anderson appeared to fully support these contemporary concepts, given his strong relationship to the CEO. I got the impression that he was in a rush to adopt a more contemporary mindset. The new CEO declared, "We will move all operations to computer-based systems going forward." It has been forbidden to use paint for patterns ever since. We were to use computer software instead. Despite having worked in this field for almost 30 years, I hardly ever used software for my designs. My level of understanding was comparable to that of a recently graduated student. I felt bad for not looking into this sooner. Recognizing my error, I began daily study of design software thereafter. At the company, there were people in their 20s who had just graduated from college. I was able to learn a lot from them and eventually develop the necessary skills to perform my work. The 30-something, second-generation CEO decided to implement this policy because she wanted to follow the latest fashions. The glances I got from Anderson hurt a little because I was the only one in this department who wasn't really experienced with design software. I used to study by fixing my subordinates' designs, but eventually I began getting assignments of my own. Having worked in the field for so long, I was sure that, with the right information, I could produce ideas that could stand up to those of the next generation. But it didn't appear like Anderson was all that impressed with my work. "You move a little too slowly. Get it together," Anderson said. "People younger than you move more quickly than you do." I apologize. I'm still a little behind. Make certain that you do. We are unable to offer you much work at this time due to the lack of quality. At least one such conversation took place each day. I was relieved when a subordinate who had witnessed this urged me not to worry and to ask them anything. But I started to panic and quickly lost confidence because I was rushed every day. This may not be the right career for someone my age. I considered retiring early as my retirement date drew near. I was carrying those ideas around in my head when we got a request from a reputable client. They desired a painted design. That being said, our organization required the usage of computer software. In order to satisfy the client's needs, I wanted to accept the request. I chose to talk to Anderson about it once. "Anderson, I need to talk to you. I am requesting permission to produce a painting design that a client has asked without using software, just once." "What? What topic are you discussing? Recently, didn't we demand that software be used for everything? However, there is a specific need for this. We have had a long-standing connection with this client. However, it is not feasible to work with them going forward. This is the reason why the elderly are useless. Is it not apparent that analog is outdated?" Did the CEO not say as much? "Digital AI may perhaps be used in the near future. You cannot remain in this industry if you are unable to keep up." I picked up the junior's software knowledge. I can utilize either, depending on the circumstance and time of day. Is it still insufficient? You're an elderly, obstinate man. Simply give up. The CEO essentially threw me out of his office. Anderson has been adhering to the CEO lately and following his instructions. I made more unsuccessful attempts to negotiate with Anderson after that. It was long overdue that I responded to the client. Anderson called me into the CEO's office one day. I knew what would be discussed because I had basically no work remaining at that point. When I got there, I made a deep bow. Seated in his chair, the CEO cast a familiar, patronizing glance at me. People always make the same expression when they try to push you away, and I could recognize that one. Since we entered the room, I have to admit that I don't really recall much of what Anderson and I talked about. But one line in particular stuck out in my memory. You don't have to come in starting tomorrow. I appreciate everything you have done thus far. I lost my position within 6 months of the second-generation CEO taking over. Furthermore, not just any exit. I lost my job. It was fortunate that my wife was no longer with me to witness this. This kind of self-exposure would be embarrassingly uncomfortable. I left the company to the juniors who educated me about the software and the clients since I felt so sorry for myself, and I didn't say anything to anyone. I was sad, but since I was officially fired, I didn't have the guts to thank you or apologize. Benefits from job, I suppose, would start right away. Still, I was itching to go back to work. I was afraid I would even fall if I felt this down all the time. That was on my mind, but as someone once said, do you really think any employer would take a 50-year-old like me? Despite my background as a designer, I was concerned that my incapacity to utilize the software might prove to be another obstacle. I sent resumes to several organizations for design, customer service, wholesaling, and secretarial employment despite my concerns. I must have distributed close to 20 resumes. Just one of the 5 companies who contacted me for an interview made it to the final stage. That particular business was a competitor of mine. I didn't think I would get the job. You undoubtedly possess the expertise. I looked at the designs you've been working on, and each one is beautifully crafted and visually pleasing. It would be a pleasure to collaborate with you. How would you respond? Really? Of course, I would adore collaborating with you. Then, how about we get started in a week? Please teach our newcomer the fundamentals of traditional design methods. I really appreciate it. Being appreciated for my abilities once more felt amazing. Once again, I was going to be a designer. I had been with the company for a month now, and I was slowly but surely picking things up. Then an unexpected event occurred. Almost $2,000 more had been taken home by me on my first paycheck at this company. Although it may sound a little harsh, this company offers really good income. Sam chuckled as I muttered something beneath my breath. Ronald, that's because you're so talented. I'm not sure how much money you made at your previous position, but you have a unique skill set that might succeed anywhere. Though a little shy, I was overjoyed. As I picked up the skills and gained recognition from Sam and my juniors, I questioned whether I was actually contributing to the squad. It was then that my phone rang. Anderson was the one. When I nervously replied, I was met with an indignant diatribe. You're not qualified as an adult or a professional. You're the reason why everyone is in difficulty. Please don't be upset. What took place? There's no time to dwell on the past. You quit your employment without turning in any paperwork. We don't have any historical statistics or client information. That's because there wasn't enough time, and I was told to leave on that day. Such pathetic justifications. How did you treat us? Within 2 days, submit the handover data, else you will be declared jobless and at liberty. Regards in advance. The call ended abruptly, and I was forced to take sole responsibility. If ENT found out that I was employed by a competitor, what would he think? At my current employment, I received new assignments that I needed to get started on right away. Troubled, I made the decision to speak with Sam. Sorry to bother you, Sam. My former employer called me just now and asked that I turn over the necessary handover paperwork immediately. I might leave for around 2 hours to take care of things. Well, that's all right, But you weren't exactly on good terms when you left that place, right? That is accurate, yes. You truly have the final say, Ronald. Although confidence can be difficult at times, you should have a healthy amount of it because you're doing a fantastic job. Although I knew in my heart that I didn't have to do this, his words made it official. Ungrateful. I will not move today. Sam smiled warmly at me after our talk and returned to his job. I didn't handle the handover documents that day. That was the end of my relationship with my previous employer. I apologize for the abrupt call. It's John here. Do you still recall me? It had been about a month since I'd hung up on Anderson and ended things when John, a former classmate, contacted me. I hesitantly answered the call, fearing that he might have been prodded by Anderson, only to hear an incredibly flat voice. Yes, you are in my memory. I apologize for causing difficulties and leaving so quickly. What took place today? Don't worry at all. I take it that the director and the CEO are the reason you left. We've been experiencing some issues. Apart from myself, it appears like everyone in their 40s and 50s is getting laid off based on what I've heard. It appears as though the younger workers who are still there are running the business. In addition, other issues have arisen as a result of the improper transfer. Actually, our CEO is nervous because we recently lost a big client. Additionally, there appears to be a lot of poor departmental communication, which results in missed deadlines. What actions should I take? In an attempt to comfort him a little, I suggested that such coordinating tasks should be left to a supervisor since he's a new recruit and doesn't bear that much responsibility yet. Then, he struggled to respond, saying, "The problem is, I'm the leader." The CEO told me that young people needed to stand up in this new age and that I should become a leader to include their thoughts after all of the senior workers quit. John sounded very hopeless. He recently joined this year and is a rookie. Even if I don't have the strongest will, I can sense that something is wrong. Even yet, I encountered opposition to the notion of voicing my disapproval to the director or CEO directly. I've heard a lot about his work, and it sounds like he has a lot on his plate, including meetings with the CEO, departmental coordination, client visits, and dealing with elderly staff. This might shatter him. He helped me learn how to use some design tools, so I wanted to return the favor by helping him. He mentioned that there was a client he used to manage, and it appeared like we were about to lose their contract, so I asked him what the biggest challenge was at the moment. The CEO has stated that's the one thing he wants to preserve above everything else. But to be honest, it doesn't seem likely given the current management approach. In fact, the customer I used to oversee preferred designs made with conventional pens and paper. I've reached my limit. I've been trying for 6 months, but I just can't do this anymore. However, I'm in charge here, and there are elders. It appears that he is thinking of giving up. Before his spirit crumbles, something needs to be done. I decided to tell John about an idea I had. He was taken aback at first, but it appeared that he eventually understood what I was saying. I appreciate you listening. I've decided, Ronald, because of you. You have my deepest gratitude. Come chat to me whenever you need to, John. I'm going to wait. I hung up the phone after that. I hoped I could help John in some way. I had taken the morning off on this particular day. To my amazement, when I awoke, I got more than 10 missed calls from private numbers. It might even be more than 30. With some reluctance, I called back, and my suspicions were verified. You're running behind schedule. What information did you give John? You are to blame for everything being damaged. It was unusual to hear Anderson on the phone seeming so agitated. I questioned, what on earth happened? It's true that I did provide John with some information. Today, John took an unplanned leave of absence. Not only is he not returning our calls or emails, but when we looked into his desk, we found a note in the corner that said, "Going to Ronald's place." I was surprised at how fast he moved. All I had done was offer to show him around my office if he was interested. Naturally, I informed him that I was unable to ensure he would be given an interview. What steps will you take to correct this? There are some projects that have approaching deadlines. You were solely to blame for this. I'll take you to court. The word Sue made me shudder, and as I opened my mouth to reply, I heard an employee ask for Anderson. There were also footsteps and the sound of phones ringing. It seems as though chaos might be in store. The phone abruptly hung up while I was thinking about this casually. Anderson's remarks have always been hard for me to take in. They have a sharp edge. But I'm not the same person that I was before. I feel much more confident now that I've been with my new company for 6 months. I wouldn't know what to say if someone questioned what the old man was talking about incoherently. However, it appears that I've been able to advance both technically and emotionally. Not that I think this is my fault, but I can't get the word Sue out of my head. I made the decision to speak with Sam about it. I arrived at work as usual in the afternoon to find a familiar-looking young man cheerfully chatting with Sam. "Thank you so much for everything, Ronald. Thank you very much for the other day and for everything you've done for me at the prior company. I truly owe you one. I'm glad to hear that you're doing nicely. Anderson informed me. Did you leave suddenly? Has anyone heard of that? I feel ashamed. I suppose my career has failed." "No, John, not at all. Your life is at stake. When you've had enough, it's acceptable to flee. But in the event that you failed this interview, what were you going to do?" "Well, I would have winged it." Such a normal young person's reaction. That's a pretty nice way of thinking. Interestingly enough, he appears to be here for an interview. Do you know if he passed? A little uneasy, I looked at Sam. There was stillness for a time, then Sam smiled and raised his hands above his head to make a large circle. My shoulders were free of stress, and I felt relieved. John inquired later about my knowledge. I told him the truth about what had transpired that morning because he had quit. John left because of me. They vowed to file a lawsuit. I wonder whether someone will sue me. After a moment of confusion, Sam smiled his typical smile and reassured me that I should feel secure because after everything that John and I had gone through, there was no way for the other side to prevail. What they seem to be doing seems like unjust termination based on what you've told me. Perhaps our argument is stronger. Have self-assurance. By the way, was the CEO always that kind of person? Sam thought back to our past drinks together and the times our firms had worked together. It reminded me of the old-fashioned kind and collected manner of the CEO he mentioned. That may be the father, the CEO from the first generation. Once he died, it went to the second generation. Are you serious? They appeared to be quite different people, so I sensed something wasn't right. Now that I see. That company isn't going to endure many more months, in my opinion. In fact, today marked the resignations of 3 of my newly hired coworkers, and my supervisor has announced his own resignation. Their father worked so hard to maintain the company. Thus, it is inexcusable that they allowed it to fail. Okay, let me handle it the next time they get in touch with you. I'll let them know how I really feel. Sam's cell phone rang just as he finished speaking, so he quickly left the room. To be honest, I suspected the business was close to going bankrupt. Young workers with little professional expertise are launching new businesses and establishing connections with other industries. That is no simple task. My phone rang as I was thinking about this and talking to John. The phone number was blocked. When I picked up the phone right away, I could hear Anderson's voice over the loudspeaker, almost like someone screaming. John also appeared astonished by it. "Hey, clean up this mess. I've been juggling multiple tasks since the morning, and our staffing level is low. Since there's nothing I can do, I've also resigned. How are you unable to find work? At the very least, you can arrive and assist. Old man, when else are you going to look good?" We must have spent 5 minutes or more having similar conversations. A booming voice came from the side just as I was about to hang up. Up until now, I've been listening silently. Is it a polite way to ask for assistance? That's not how you interact with people. Here, who is the true adult? There was stillness for a while, and then John yelled into the phone, releasing all he had been holding in. Then Anderson's voice became tremulous. "Is that you, John? Please, John. I'm not upset. Return. Our CEO is waiting. You are needed." Thought to himself, he knew John would never approve. Then Henderson spoke in a dejected tone. Are you implying that the business cannot function without me, even if I am fired? I won't be let go because I'm a young man, not an elderly one. It appeared like he feared losing his job. He must be concerned because he has a child in middle school. However, he is only 4 years younger than me minus 49. He must appear to be an old guy to the CEO of the second generation. Look, I'll tell the CEO to give you a raise right now if you can keep working with the client that Ronald used to handle. Thus, will you not return? About that client, they've just signed a contract with our company. Sam seems to have heard Anderson and John's loud voices. As though tossing off the facts, he repeated them. During our phone conversation, I had requested John to notify my previous client of my whereabouts in the event that he planned to visit this organization for an interview. What on earth are you? Outsiders, please depart. Here, I'm conversing with John. Hey, Anderson, I believe we've already met. Are you forgetting? That was during the tenure of the former CEO. We shared a drink between us. My name is Sam Smith. At the drinking party, you came across as really sincere. Was that only a theatrical production? Anderson lost it big time as he thought of Sam. He was undoubtedly taken aback that someone outside of his company, from a rival company no less, had discovered the real him. Not to mention that John and I from the competing firm were present. At this point, what should I say to the CEO? It doesn't matter if Ronald is the one now. I'll hire you again, so please come see us today. The next instant, Sam was berating Anderson for his lexical choices. Anderson remained bewildered, and the phone picked up the sounds of everyone's commotion. Footsteps, phones ringing, apologies. I apologize, Ronald. Okay, just please return. This time, you can stay indefinitely. Can you pay me 10 times the salary? I could hear his voice losing its vitality. I was shy, so I think Anderson thought I would return, but I'm finally accepted into Sam's company. Nothing to be afraid about. 10 times? What topic are you discussing? You are aware that our business does not possess that much cash, correct? It is not possible if you cannot pay. As you are, please give it your all. At my current job, I'm paid roughly twice as much as you people. I'm not planning on returning. There was background noise, so I could hardly hear what Anderson was saying. I soon heard nothing more than noise till the call ended. I thought for a second that would never end after that, but then I heard John say, "That was pretty cool." After that, things happened quickly. Eventually, fewer than 1/3 of the workers remained after they continued to quit. It appears the company went bankrupt 3 months after my final communication with Anderson, unable to continue operating with such a shortage of personnel. Anderson lost his job even though it doesn't seem like he was fired because of a lack of employees. According to a former coworker at the previous employer, Anderson is currently unemployed and plans to live apart from his wife and children until he secures employment. It appears that his family was affected by his authoritarian behavior toward his subordinates. I've heard that they may even file for divorce. I wonder how Anderson is making judgments now that he doesn't have the CEO as a cover, as he sounds desperate. Ronald, I really liked your last design. You truly are amazing. I'm glad we gave you the job. I've been employed here for a year now. This organization acknowledges and commends me. Everyone tries to encourage one another. I was hopeless that day, but I'm here now because I was let go. I feel like I owe Anderson and the CEO of the prior business something. I've been given a lot of work to do, and I'm overwhelmed, but it's a nice kind of busy. I intend to work as hard as I can till retirement. No, as long as they have me.